This is the Afro Perspective Podcast, the home of over-opinionated young voices.
Don't mean they're subject. It just means that you're not holding on to that morality. So someone getting married before they have...
If you might feel so strongly about this, we could just run with it.
I've already pressed record. So just run in.
Okay, then.
Cool. We just do a Chucky. Just do a Chucky podcast and just jump. No, Chucky's when the people, guests coming all the time and sit down. Carry on. Go on, as you're saying. So you're saying there's a right way of doing things and a wrong way to do. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
You're saying let's use that example. Let's use the Dutch Belly example.
Yeah.
So the 18-year-old and a 27-year-old.
Yeah.
So if the guy approaches the lady in a sense where he wants to set up a life and marry that lady, then that is acceptable.
Yeah.
But if a man is on debauchery, basically, then that is not acceptable.
Not acceptable.
Why?
Because number one, do you know why so many young women today do not trust men? Why do so many young women today say men are trash? Because of that very reason that men are using them as just a piece of meat. They get what they want, they get their little pleasure, and then they're gone.
Wait, let him land. Let him land, because I'm about to fire him.
And then they're gone, okay? Now, I can't blame the guy for that, because if you're going to behave that way, then, hey, don't be surprised if that's how you're going to be used. But what I am saying is that there is a right way and a wrong way to do something. And so if you're saying, I want to be with someone, then from me, biblically, is, hey, get married. If you're serious and you're looking to commit, then, hey, do what you want. You're doing the right thing. You're not jumping here and jumping there.
So you're talking about the intentions. So the intention changes everything, basically. Because if I'm going to marry that girl with the age gap, then there isn't necessarily an issue per se, because my intentions are more pure, rather than if I'm just going to lash and dash. Then the intentions are.
100%. There's a difference.
The danger in that is marriage is being used to harbour grown men.
Why land, brother?
The marriage is being used to harbour grown men, basically taking advantage of young women.
How does that work? How does a grown man take advantage? Would you rather if you had you've got daughters?
Yes.
I've got a daughter. Would you rather your daughter dating someone and that person who, let's say they were 10 years older than her, saying, hey, you know what? I'd rather get married to this guy, set up home where there's because when you're married, there's security. Okay, there's commitment, there's seriousness. They're saying, I forsake all others, I'm gonna be with you. Or would you rather say, hey, she's still young, he's older, let him do his thing and let her do her thing. She might get pregnant, she might get heartbroken, she may begin to. Which one would you rather? What scenario would you prefer for your own daughter?
Okay, so you have heard about domestic violence in marriage, right?
We've heard domestic violence in relationship in general, and not just marriage.
Well.
Of course, you're going to have that in marriage and relationships.
Literally, it doesn't change one's character. So if a man's of bad character or has bad intentions, whether he marries your daughter or he doesn't marry her, it doesn't change how he's going to treat her if he intends on treating her.
No, I don't agree with that.
I don't know if there is all of that in marriage, but I think that when you talk about marriage, guys are not just going to marry anyone.
Exactly.
Guys are not just going to marry anyone.
Exactly.
So they may all of what you said may be correct, but they're not just going to pick anyone. So what it does tell you is they are serious about the person.
100%.
So I don't necessarily think that.
Well, people do.
What you think? What are you talking about? What reason would you marry someone? I want to tell me,
as a man, think about just think as a man. You're seeing the woman, man would rather, think about the man them out there. They'd rather breed a girl, than marry them.
Anton, you're thinking about yourself and you're thinking too much into your close circle.
Okay, Lamb.
We're talking about on the wider scale.
Go on.
Right? We have seen girls that have been trapped in marriages with older men, way older men.
That's true.
That treat them sort of controlling, etc., etc. Does the fact that she's married change the fact that she's still a victim of domestic violence, a victim of being controlled, emotional? It's still the same thing. So marriage, fair enough, from a moral point of view, is the right way to go about things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the good and the bad that comes with the union of two human beings.
So let's go. Hold on. Remember, we need to stay on point here. So we were talking about the Doshavelli scenario.
Yeah.
So the Doshavelli scenario, we were talking off camera, so I'm just going to bring it back in. Doshavelli, obviously, he's come back this year. He's released a new video. He's got over 1 million views. So he's doing his thing again, obviously, with not that much press in the media killing him or forsaking him anymore. The issue was we were unable to prove the issues with the girl that was under the age of 16.
Yeah.
And there was a secondary case where people were talking about he's into younger girls anyway because there was an 18-year-old. So my question is he wrong for messing around with an 18-year-old?
He was talking to her before she was 18.
How was he now?
I'm sure it was.
Okay.
Do you know what? I don't think that there's anything wrong with an older guy talking like he's 27.
Yeah, 27. Yeah.
And she's 18.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with him speaking to her, but I do think people like that, they're just his intentions aren't, hey, I'm gonna take it to marriage. I'm not gonna. His intentions aren't, I'm gonna marry. I'm gonna look after you, and we're gonna create a life together. His intentions are, I just want to
this and that and bounce
and I'm gone, and that affects young women, especially a young woman who is still growing. It affects their mind. It affects their self-esteem.
So,
we talk about, for example, young black women who today, because 75%, I think it was, I don't know if it's including it. You go with it. 75% of young black women are having children out of wedlock. The men are leaving, okay? Mm-hmm. They are raising these kids alone, and it's because of these scenarios. We need to teach a young black women to have self-worth and to have value, and to show them that if someone is willing to commitment is I'm willing to marry you and to set a life up with you. Anything else is substandard.
I ain't gonna disagree with that.
Do you know what? No, I agree with you. But I'd like to sort of dig a little bit deeper so we can understand why that's the case. Because you made a very good point. 75% of children are being
born out of wedlock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That goes back to several podcasts that we have had where family structure is concerned.
This guy loves it.
It goes back to the same thing. So why? That's almost an anomaly when you look at the spectrum across different
different races. Yeah. Because if you think of your Asian
it's like black people that it's almost like the graph just jumps high. Mm-hmm. Why is that the case? I believe it's the broken family structure.
Yep.
So you find that the reason why it's broken, it's trauma that's been passed down from generation to generation. Okay. So especially in the Western society, there is there's an element of single motherhood and Miss Independent, quote unquote.
Yeah,
she's celebrated.
I agree.
In society, she's celebrated way beyond the woman that's submissive, that's married to
that's a fact.
Her husband, the woman that still sticks to her traditional values or whatsoever. Miss Independent is allowed to express herself sexually in many other ways that society before wouldn't necessarily accept. So there's that whole Miss Independent aspect, and then there's the whole fact that if you look at the generation before this, the family structure was broken. So somebody that's raised in a single parent household doesn't necessarily understand or doesn't necessarily see the need for a second parent. They don't necessarily understand the balance that you will get as a child from living in a household, a dual parent household.
So how did that come about? That's the question.
That came about from, especially if you're looking into Western society, that's from Willie Lynch breaking the black family.
Who broke the black family?
It's mental. Those are the chains and images of mental slavery. So
let me just give you a stat, because I like to work with stats. 100 years after slavery, okay, only 22% there was only 22% of single parents in the Black community. I'm talking about America. I don't know, and it was actually
use America because it's fine.
And it was actually a lot lower within the UK. Only 22%.
I can believe that.
And so, if we are talking about
what happened after that, though?
So let me check this. Yeah. So, if we're talking about it was because people always use slavery, then surely that 100 years should have been the worst. In fact, when a lot of these slaves were freed, a lot of them went to look for their family. Like when we talk about slavery, we think that they were forced and the men were committed to their they were more committed than any other time in our generation. Yeah. There was that. But then fast forward in the 60s, essentially. Do you know what came? Let me tell you what really destroyed the Black community.
I know what you're going to say.
What broke the Black community was the welfare system. Okay? Welfare. And so when so once again, it's no one else who done it to us. It's we sort of accepted the handout and we did it to ourselves. Hey, if you don't have a man at home, we can still look after you with your kids. So what does that happen? Just like you said, now I can really be Miss Independent. Now I can go and do. I don't need you,
and I will act like I don't need you.
It's a bit complex in the sense of I see how the welfare system almost, for example, if you're in receipt of benefits, right?
Yeah.
The benefit system actually has a way of policing men not being present in that household.
Big time. For example, I'll give you an example. So if you're on a middle income, so what's the average wage in the UK? It's about 27,000, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're on 27,000 and say your wife works part-time.
Yeah.
So she brings like 8,000-9,000 into the house. You're not going to get any benefits for that because you're earning too much at that point, but you're not necessarily very wealthy. You'll tend to find that if that same woman was on that same money, 8,000-9,000, and then she gets child tax and working tax credits for 16 hours plus, she's actually better off without the man.
Okay. So
and there's a lot of households that are better off.
That is crazy.
So check how it check this. It comes back to that same thing. There's a right and a wrong thing to do.
Go on.
The right thing to do is, we're going to struggle a bit, but I'd rather stay with, because the fact is, if you're going to build real wealth, they actually say that those who build real wealth are those in a family unit. A man and his wife, they're married, they're working together, and they're building something together. Okay. And so you can say, hey, I'm going to depend on a welfare system. That's a bad choice. That's a bad decision. But
some guy got fire off.
Some people. But the thing is, you're teaching your kids handout, because too many people today, your money dictates to you where you live. You try and go and live in a certain area, your money's like, no. Sorry, you're living there. You try and go and shop somewhere, your money, no, you can't afford. You're getting there.
Yeah.
You try and buy that money should not dictate. And so we've allowed money to dictate our family unit. And that's what's happened essentially. We've allowed money and individuals. And so when we look at that, who is it to blame? We can blame Tom, Dick, and Harry, but the fact is,
you still had the choice.
You had the choice,
and you could have lived on that. You could have lived a little bit poorer, but had the family structure.
But the fact is,
you wanted to.
But the fact is, you might live in poverty for a bit, but I can guarantee you, the next generation, if you have that foundation, that solid foundation, the next generation usually, and this is shown across the Asian community, the Jewish community, even the white community. If you have that family structure, the next generation usually begins to do better. And then the next generation begins to do better. That's how it works. But if you're just like, short-term pleasure, I just want money now. I'm going to get... Come on.
I think everything you're saying is right, but I think you're speaking from a very idealistic point of view. And when I say that, I mean to say it's all good to say that, but you have to take other people's perceptions into consideration.
Okay.
So what you're saying is complete gems, but to somebody else, it doesn't make sense because they've never seen any different to the single sort of parent kind of household. So to even...
So that's that normal, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's what's normal. And culture dictates how a people behave. And culture is malleable.
I agree 100%.
Culture is malleable.
Yeah.
So you find that when you look into the Zimbabwean community, for example, if you talk to any of your peers that are in Zimbabwe, they're talking marriage in their 20s.
Yeah.
If they're going to ask you, have you got a girlfriend? They don't usually say, have you got a girlfriend? Have you got a wife?
Yeah.
This is something that I've always had with my Zimbabwean peers. I'd say more than 60% of my high school friends are in wedlock. And that's not changed. However,
Westernized world.
In the Westernized world, it's different. The culture is different. And that culture has been it's been changed. So our African values, our traditional African values are no longer mainstream in the diaspora. And you have to kind of take that into cognizance when you look at how the sort of, things are changing. So here in the UK, marriage is...
Yeah.
You see, it's neither here or there.
No, for you it isn't, for the black community, but look at the Asian community.
But look how because they have preserved their culture.
Do you know what? It's as simple as, because we always talk about culture, but sometimes culture or doing the right thing sometimes trumps culture. Just doing the right things. Not because we all know what the right thing to do is, whether we have culture or not. Yeah. Sleeping around and you're potentially going to get pregnant. Okay. And so regardless, we can talk about culture, but we know right and wrong. We know this, and life is so simple. There's always two choices. This is a bad choice. This is a good choice. You can say, that is literally,
he's right. It's either you go this route or
that
you go
is
this
literally
route.
how life is. So for example, give me a scenario. Okay, I've grown up. I didn't have my dad at home. I've grown up. We really struggled. Now you grow up, you realize, man, this life was really bad. And so you recognize that this scenario was not good. What other alternatives are there? Oh, a married couple. So do you know what? I'm not going to go down this route. I'm going to go down this route. It literally is that simple. You don't need...
I don't think it's that simple. Because
you don't need culture to do that.
I don't think it's that simple.
It's that simple.
It really is.
It
really is.
Did you grow up in a...
two-family?
Yeah, I had my mom, my father, yeah.
Right? So that means you have grown up with the balance of understanding what marriage and what
You're
family.
entitled, my friend.
Right?
let me say...
If dad wasn't around, you might not understand the value of a man taking care of his family.
Let me say this. Okay. I'll give you that. But there came a point where I became a man and I started making certain decisions, and it led me down a certain route until I realized, you know what? Life can actually be simple because you have two choices, the right one and the wrong one. Before I became a Christian, I was messing about with loads of women and so on and so forth. I was doing this and doing that. This is what I was doing. I was doing all types of madness, but I realized, and I always wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. I didn't want to be that guy who's got kids there, everywhere, But the way I was going, that's how it was gonna. And so I had to make a choice.
Okay, do you not think that? I hear what you're saying and I agree with you 100%, but I actually understand what Tinashe is saying. Regardless of what you decided to do, you was already given a blueprint. So hold on, let me land. You, when you were messing about, was deviating from the blueprint that you already knew. But you knew the blueprint already. So hold on, let me land. Some people don't have the same blueprint that you have.
Can I tell you why?
Hold on, let me land, brother.
Okay.
Some people don't have the same blueprint that you have. So as far as they're concerned, if they're young lady, she's growing up with just her mum. Seen her mum seems to be doing okay.
Yeah.
So as far as she's concerned, they grew up just fine with just their mum, and they turned out fine. You know, she's got a job, she's got a degree, she's driving a car, she's bought a house. So she might not understand the purpose of balance. Because in her household, everybody was cool. As far as she was concerned.
I'm glad you said that.
Yes? You understand what I'm saying? So from her viewpoint or his viewpoint, same way with a guy, they were fine. They didn't need him.
Okay.
So therefore, what's the benefit of moving to the blueprint that they don't actually know?
Okay. So once again,
not to put you on the
once again, it's like this. You might have not had the blueprint, but there's many opportunities for us to have a blueprint within the. So, for example, I run a church, and many times people come to church. You give them an example, you show them an example, you are an example, you show them the blueprint, but guess what? It always comes down to choices once again. It's all about choices. It literally is that.
That's one of my best.
It literally is that. You have to make the right choices, because if you don't make the right, whether it's finances, like for example, like we could talk about even money.
We're going to get to the some money subject next. No worries.
We could talk about even money. Yeah. It's about choices. We can talk about, like you were talking about, who you marry. It's choices. It's all about choices. And so today, if you choose, because what I see is that there's a lot of young women, and a lot of young men within the Black community who the only people who, and I agree, where the only people they see is your rappers who are on TV messing with girls. They ain't really getting committed. And so they don't really have that blueprint. And so when you're talking about, what's that dude's name? When you're talking about that dude, I'm saying, is that the type of person we really need to be propping up? And that type of behavior, because the younger generation are looking at that and saying, you know what, this is what we need to do. You know, we shouldn't be propping up people like that. Okay. Too often within the Black community, we are propping up negative men who, you know, they're talking nonsense. They live a lifestyle that is detrimental to our community. And that's who we prop up. And then we're surprised when...
preach, man.
We're surprised when things begin to go wrong. We begin to blame that person. But the fact is, you've propped up the wrong people.
Yeah.
I will go as deep as say this. People like Stormzy.
Yeah.
People like what's my man in Manchester? Bugsy Malone, all of these guys.
Yeah.
I feel they are actually the real enemy, and this is gonna be what? They are actually the real enemy to our community. Why?
Leave Stormzy alone. Go on. What did Stormzy do to you, bro?
You were saying, but do you know what he done to me? Yeah. Is when I let me tell you what he done. When I listen to his music and I listen to what he is saying, you need to understand that words have power.
Oh, we've said this.
And so when you're speaking certain words, especially to the young community, those words become life in them. And so when you just go and listen to his music, and then tell me if there's positivity coming from that. You know, the Bible actually says, you know, life and death is in the power of the tongue. So what you say has the power to change and to transform someone. And so when I say these guys are the real enemy to our community, it's like wolves in sheep's clothing. They come and they will fight, blah, blah. But in fact, they are actually the issue. They are actually the problem.
What perpetuation negative stereotypes.
Exactly.
I'm on the fence with that one.
I don't even know with that one.
No, I'm on
a guy like Bugsy.
Bugsy, I hear you, but Stormzy
the same thing.
He got some positive messages.
You see, that's the thing. Mix a bit of truth with a bit of negativity, and then that's how. This is the problem.
That's a Jedi mind tricks.
This is the thing. I hear so many people who, but he made a Christian,
God's
right?
grace, yeah,
What are you talking? The guy ain't Christian he loves his money. He loves his street life. That's how he came up. Let's just call it what it is. But we protect these types of people and we hold them to high esteem. And then we are surprised when our young people begin to look up at these guys and emulate the type of life or copy the type of lives that they're living. Come on.
Suzanne, do you accept Christian music from quote unquote sinner?
Like who?
Like Blinded by Grace?
I don't listen to do you know what? I don't actually listen to no Christian. I think Christian music is a lot of it is this very corny, number one. Number two, I think there's a lot of hypocrisy with even people who say they're fully Christian artists. Okay. Exactly. So
what's wrong with Kirk Franklin, man? He's allowed to do that as his son.
No, but once again, this whole you were talking about the black man being or men being, this whole feminist movement. They're trying to feminize men.
Okay.
Kirk Franklin, look how some of his video, man's wearing lipstick and wearing makeup and what's that? Is that what you're pushing? Is this what you're pushing?
No.
Is this what we're pushing to our young black?
No.
We need to be pushing strong alpha males out there. Not emotionally unbalanced makeup wearing men who would tell it,
where does that come from?
Do you know where that comes from? It's these guys have sold out a lot of the time because, the black community would never have accepted the LGBT and all of that other stuff. And the only reason they've accepted it is because they've seen people who look like them. So you've got someone like Little...
Yep,
is it Little Nas?
No, we're gonna do this a little bit and then we're gonna skip over this because we avoid this subject at all costs.
Yeah. And so you've got someone like that. You've got people like... And so you see someone who looks like... Because that's how they do it.
Then you identify.
Looks like you.
Yeah.
Oh, if he's doing it, then I guess it's all right for me to do it. And that's how it works.
Yeah,
in the black community,
essentially they are influencers.
Look at the music, grime. I'm from London.
Mm-hmm.
Is it grime or grime?
It's grime.
Look how many young black men are being killed who are grime artists. Look at that. And then yet we are still we're still trying to make an excuse for it. Why don't we just...
We've already said there's a correlation.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, we've
Thank you.
So tell me something. Do you think that the musicians as influencers are more influential than the clergymen, than the church?
Yes.
Do I think that? Do you know what I think? I feel the church has become like... Most people, they look at me and they don't even think I'm a pastor.
I didn't know. Remember, we had to have a few conversations before. Yeah.
I feel a lot of the church today, you go into a church and it's packed with women. No offense.
Yeah.
It's just packed with women.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you the truth. The type of guy I am, if I would have walked into a church and it's a female pastor, the congregation is fully female, I probably would have walked out. It's not my scene. Okay. I want a strong man who's going to have vision, who's going to stand for something. And that's a man I want to follow. Why do you think so many...
It's a representation on that side.
Yeah, I want a man who... no offense, I can't relate to a woman. I can't bring my...
That's a natural
I'm looking dumbfounded because... Women are going to come for you.
No, I don't think they should because hold on. Before you make your point.
Misogyny in the church.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, but if the same way that women would say they want to see representation in the workplace and this, that, and the third, because they want to see, I saw her, so I knew I could do it.
Yeah.
Then why would a man not want to see representation in the church?
Men always kind of dominated the church.
Well, clearly not anymore.
Not anymore. Have you been church recently? The church is.
You've not been church recently,
Most churches today. You know what it is? We go, like, people come to my church and they're like, why is there so many men here? Place is packed with men. Why? Because there are men who act like men. Old school men who want to do the right thing, who stand for something, who have vision, who know. And so for me, girls can come whatever they want, but the fact stands, like, you men have to be men. If you're gonna, within the black community, the problem is the lack of men.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
the lack of strong men within a lot of churches today. It's a lack of men within. It is.
So are we saying that most of the problems within the black community is the fact that we have a lack of men and definitely have a lack of strong men? I would agree. Role, because it's therefore in a positive light. So therefore, we don't have any role models, as you're saying. Yeah,
but then we've got some great thinkers out there. Because I read a lot, and we've got some great thinkers. Like, there's a gentleman, Thomas Sowell. I read this guy. I love this guy. But you know what? Most people have never even heard of him.
Wow.
But this guy, he's an intellect. You heard of Jordan Peterson?
I have.
See, this guy's like Jordan Peterson on stage. He's so smart. He's so knowledgeable. But we will never hear, and he's such a great example. Why don't we hear about people? This guy's got over 12 books. He's been in some of the top universities in America, yet we don't hear about him. But yet we'll talk about Jay-Z. Something comes up about the black, Jay-Z comes out, or Beyonce. Yet they're the ones who are causing young women, young men to act and to look a certain way.
Yeah, even for me, like, I'm 23 now. And the way I kind of see it is, like, growing up, the people I kind of looked up to was like Meek Mill, it was Jay-Z, it was Kanye West. And it was kind of like, if I didn't break out of that mold, do my own research, I feel like I would have just followed the generic path of a black guy. I wanted to be a footballer, want to do sport. And if not, I probably want to rap. And I feel like the problem with most of our generation, especially speaking from my standpoint, is that with black people, I generally believe we like to blame a lot of people, we like to blame everybody else, and we don't take accountability.
Yep.
And then on top of that, we kind of want to reinvent the wheel. And what I mean by that is things that are already done, tried and proven, the Jewish community, you get the middle-class white people that do all these things like marriage. They go to school, they don't hang out on the streets, they don't listen to this toxic, negative music all the time. We kind of shun that. And even saying, like, some of the things he's saying, it's very black and white, but when he's saying it, it's almost like, wow, I can't believe he's saying that. But these are the things that have been working for generations and generations.
And we lost our values.
Yeah, we've lost our values. And I feel like as black people now, we want to like go down this new path. And I just think it's destructive. Like, we don't want to get married anymore. People don't want to do that.
I think it's black people need a cultural therapy.
No, black people need some morality.
Yeah, cultural therapy.
It's not cultural. There's a difference between culture and morality. Because your culture can be so detrimental sometimes.
Morality is subjective.
Morality, do you know, when we use that word subjective,
right, last subject to make it a lab. Go on.
Morality is not subjective. It's either black or white. It's just because it literally. This is
why he's the pastor.
It's like this with morality. It's a bit like, okay, do you want your woman to be faithful to you or not when you're married? Of course, you're going to say the right thing to do morally is for her. Like, for you to say subjective is your woman saying, you wouldn't
even mix it with subjective.
No, because guess what?
You wouldn't mix it with subjective.
No,
exactly.
No, when I say it's subjective, you've got to realize there are other denominations or other religions or cultures that accept a man marrying 4 wives or 5 wives. And that is completely, that is morally acceptable.
And once again,
it's subjective according to your culture.
That is no. So this is the problem. Morality has to transcend the human thinking, the human psyche. Okay,
yeah, but then that's the subjective.
No. It's not subjective. So there's law. So the law is this. This is the law that God sort of. Okay, you marry one woman. Okay, you want to go and do your own thing because you think that's the right thing to do. But the law is the moral still this.
Yeah, but that is based
so just
on
because you're not
your perspective, perspective and perception.
I always say, just because you're not following. So, for example, nowadays, cohabiting, people,
Do you think you empathize with non-followers?
People shacking up.
Yeah.
People shacking up. even though the majority of people see that as right, morally, when you look at scripture and the one who created morals, because morals don't come from humans, they come from something a lot bigger than us, morally, it's still wrong. Just because majority of people aren't following it doesn't mean, hey, it's still, this is the standard. You're just missing that standard. That's what it is.
We're going to leave Freddie King at the final.
Next subject. So I think we've not just in this podcast, but in some of our other podcasts, we've kind of gone down the road of looking at some of the issues that are in our community. And a lot of it goes down to, regardless of what we want to say, wealth and making money and that kind of sort of thing. So one of the reasons why I invited you into that podcast is because we've had some conversations, obviously off camera, about, ways of making sure you're making money or ways to make money going forward. And I just thought it'd be a good way to just have a discussion on the camera, talk about why money is power, bad habits in our community and that sort of thing, and how people can potentially make money going forward.
Yeah.
Without actually giving any advice. I don't want no body of finance coming after me and saying,
no. Don't come after me.
You were advising people on finance and you don't have this degree. I don't want none of that. So I suppose I'm gonna ask the whole group, everyone. Do we think money is power and why? I suppose is my first question. Yeah, go. Yeah. Guess first, man. Guess first.
You guys know.
AJ, look at AJ. AJ, make a talk, man.
Listen, this guy has a tendency to hog the mic. No way, right?
Is money power? That's the question, right?
Yeah, that's one of my questions.
I'd 100% say so, because if you look at governments, if you look at laws, anything that needs to be done, take for example, America, you got the Jewish people. They tend to run a lot of society. If you go against the Jewish people, it's almost like you're going against everybody. Because if these guys, you're getting Nick Cannon. If you go against them, because they have so much money, because they've built themselves up, because they own real estate, because they own the banks, they're able to dictate a lot. So for me, 100%, money is definitely power.
Yeah.
Next guest.
Yeah, money is definitely something you need. Whether it's power is questionable, but money allows you to now set up certain institutions that will help your community. So if you have money, you're now able to buy things like media outlets where you now begin to push out certain messages. If you have money, you're now able to even buy politicians. How do you do that? Because if I've got an MP or if I've got the biggest check, I can say to you, hey, if you want me to give you this money, then what you have to do is ABC, and that's how they buy them. Okay. And when you've bought politicians, guess what? Now you can, now begin to push certain laws that help your community. And so money in itself is not power. It's the way you use that money that allows you to gain power.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, I was literally going to say the last bit of what you said. Is money power? Is money power? Not necessarily. Case in point, the black community has money.
I was gonna go see this.
The black community spends the most money. An understanding of how to manage your money, how to invest your money is where the real power lies. And also an understanding that money can be translated to other forms of i.e. assets.
Yeah.
So assets are power. Land is power. Money is
it's a tool in which you use that.
It's a tool in which you use to get those things. Okay. And access to capital is probably where the difference between having access to that power, but more so understanding things like pooling, for example,
selfishness
is where the power comes in.
Okay, so you've just made a point there about how much you kind of made a point about it. We have money because when you see some of these statistics and you hear about, we support $1 trillion industries as a people, but then we don't really have any significant infrastructure in the Western world, which doesn't seem to correlate. Do you think that's just because of bad habits in the community, or do you think it's misteachings, or do you think it's because in the westernized world they're new to money? Like, what do you think the actual crux of the issue is? And it's a very wide question, and I didn't prepare you for it, so if you can't go answer, let me know. But guess first.
Is that me? Yeah.
Anyone? Yeah, anybody.
So, I feel the black community does have a lot of money. I feel we more want to floss than invest, and that's the issue. We want to look good for others, so we will spend money, because to invest, the first thing you have to be able to do is to save to be able to invest. And so if you cannot save, then it just stops right there. You can't do anything. You have to have some type of savings. You need to have a little bit of money to be able to invest into something. And so, but within our community, we'll rather go and buy a big car, or buy, expensive clothes, or, go whatever it is. We'll rather do that than to save to invest.
Do you think it's because we look at things as individuals rather than a collective, or do you think it's go on?
I think it's our idea of success is more in accessing brands, accessing materials.
So your Gucci belt and
and that is, to me, it's sort of I'm Zimbabwean, right? And I understand how colonialism still plays in our minds. So when I look at our parents and how they grew us, and some of the images and some of the things that we deemed as success, it was more buying a nice car. It was more, having nice clothes or whatever. It was to fit the image of what our parents in their colonial mindsets deemed as success, i.e. what the white man was doing. Whereas I feel like our idea of success is completely sort of skewed. It's completely wrong. Whereas when you look at other people's idea of success and their understanding of what wealth is, it's, being able to feed your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren before they're even born.
Yeah.
Well,
I seen
we just see success as buying the latest, BMW or whatever.
I think a good example for me was the other day I was driving. I run a football team. I was driving down to the Fairvale area, and there's a lot of Eastern Europeans in that area now. Mm-hmm. And you noticed in that area now, they have a few shops, just little corner shops, nothing special, no massive supermarkets and nothing like that. But that kind of got me thinking. It's like, where can you even, in this city in particular, can you name me more than one? Actually, can you even name me one corner shop that is black owned? Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? So they've come here, and Eastern Europeans are definitely the last large group, I'd say, to come in. We came here in the 60s, and definitely. And then we've got Asian people that came shortly after, and they've definitely mastered that game. And then the Eastern Europeans have come over here, and one of the very first things they've done is they've kind of in that area. Now, if you're spending in that area, the pound is going to them directly. And I think as a people, it's like, how did we miss that
window
part? Yeah, because we.
Do you know what I think? I think it goes back to just like what you were kind of saying in terms of currency. Like for black people, our currency a lot of the time tends to be what's cool rather than what do I actually own. One thing that doesn't really get brought up a lot of the time is someone's net worth. So I remember, I think it was Jay-Z when he first started, he had this video called Big Pimpin'. He was throwing out money, loads and loads of money. And at the time, everyone thought he'd made it. Everyone thought Jay-Z's the guy, he's rich. And Jay-Z even says, at that time, I didn't even have money. All I had to do was fake it until I made it. And now he's a billionaire. He's got this hair. He wears suits, but he's not as focused on trying to look rich.
And flamboyant.
Yeah, he's not busy. Yeah, he doesn't business no more. Yeah,
and I think just in our community, that's the issue. What I tend to do now, I didn't grow up in wealth. I didn't really grow up in wealth, so I try and mingle with these guys that have got a bit of money, and when I hang with them, they're wearing the same clothes they wore 2-3 years ago. The guy was telling me I've still got an iPhone 5. This guy, if you go to his house, he's got land, he's got money, he's living well. He paid for himself to go to university, and he's still rocking the same iPhone 5. And that's the difference. Whereas I go now to my friends that I hang around to, who I grew up with.
iPhone 11,
iPhone 12, MacBook, Jordans, Nike. Nike's killing my people. You know what's crazy with Nike? We think it's cheap. We think it's super cheap, but the amount of Nike we've accumulated over time.
Black people are probably one of the biggest buyers
of Nike. And the thing is,
if not the biggest.
Yeah, and overall, like, these guys will just wear something from Primark and they don't mind. And I started hanging them. It's like, okay, so on one hand, I've got my friends doing this. Then I've got these, I don't want to say it, but the middle class white people that I'm chilling with. Yeah. Maybe some upper class and they're doing this. And I think that's the issue. These guys decided to buy land, whereas these guys put the money towards shoes. Exactly. Yeah.
No, I hear that. So you think we've got some bad habits in our community, basically, and that's one of the reasons that are stopping us from kind of...
Yeah, I think it goes back to one thing. Like you mentioned, the Asian community. It starts with family. A lot of the Asian community, when they first started, it was a family affair. So you had everyone living in one house. They'd all put their money together.
They still do that now. Yeah.
They still do that now, right?
Yeah.
And so one person will go to a shift, look after all the kids, the other person, and that's how
no nursery fees, no rental payments.
This is how they do it.
And now all your money's staying in the yard.
Now, how do you do it if you haven't got that family unit? It starts with the family. If there's no family, if there's not, how you going to be able to do it yourself? That's number one. The other thing is, black folks, a lot of the time, we teach our kids about, hey, you want to be a sports person. I'll be honest with you.
Do we do that though? I'm gonna have to run in and defend my people right now.
Okay. I'll say this, like, who are our role models today? Sports people, celebrities.
Yeah, but I agree with you there to a degree, obviously, because they're in the limelight. I hear that.
Yeah, but
so my son wants to be a footballer.
What do we push out?
That doesn't mean what I'm pushing as a parent in the home.
No, you're good because once
my son wants to be a footballer.
But if you think about it, you're at home. You're probably pushing, like, for me, I'm a parent and I'm telling my kids, I don't actually I want them to do sports, but I tell them about business.
Yeah, I'm having those conversations.
I want them to, like, and so I sit down because it's not the schools, because the schools don't teach about finances.
Yeah.
It's our job. So one of the issues of our communities is we don't read a lot. I'm talking about, I don't want you to tell me what video you watched on YouTube about whatever. I want you to tell me, I read this book and this is what it said.
I read one book, it changed my whole mind.
What book was that?
It was a simple book. It was
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, Rich Man in Babylon.
Rich Man in Babylon changed my whole life. And the thing is, the book didn't even tell me anything I didn't know, really, deep down. It just changed the way I saw everything.
Yeah.
So now I hear you.
Reading, you need to understand that this is someone who's made mistakes, who it's a bit like you're getting all of that download of what they've experienced. And so if you don't read, what do you teach your kids? Because they ain't gonna get taught that in school. So for me, I read. I sit down with my daughter. My daughter knows what an asset is, what a liability is. My daughter, and she's only 8. She knows about investing. She knows that, hey, how to flip houses. Why? Because I've showed her that. Because they ain't getting taught that in school.
Yeah.
If you go to Eton, 100%. That's what they get taught. They ain't, the same curriculum we getting taught. It's not what these guys are. No wonder majority, like 90-something% of these people come out from Eton, start their businesses straight away. But they've
been having that discussion the whole time for 20 years.
100%. But we haven't got that excuse anymore where it's like, hey, we haven't got the information. No, you can read. Like, I told guys in our church, I tell them, one of the things I tell you need to read. Like we've got a group where people read and you have to put a tick that you've read that day.
Oh, okay.
So that we know that, because not only that, when you read, it's exercise. Yeah, you go gym and like there's all of these guys, but what about your brain? What about your mind? How you thinking? How you investing? And so you have to learn
just make the investment to your mind
to read, because all the information is out there.
Yeah, and even for me, like I'm at the stage now, I almost feel a bit selfish because I now know this knowledge. This guy told me to start reading. I started reading. I always had an interest in business. I got my sister the kids version, Rich Dad Poor Dad for teens. She's read that. My sister's got crypto. She's got stocks. And like, we're doing these things now. But the problem is like, I already know majority of people, especially in the black community, they're not going to do that. They're not going to bother. They're not going to pick up that book. They're not going to go to this course. They're not going to try. And it's like, that's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And I'm at this weird stage and I don't like it because I sound like that guy who says, I hate people that complain. But I hate people that complain because it's in the actions. Like, it's literally in the actions. I'm over here doing the hard work. Then I'm seeing everyone else who's wanting to spend money, wanting to just spend money on looking cool or it's all about the self. Everything's about the self. And I'm like, okay, no. I've got my paycheck. AJ, what we're going to do? I look in my stocks. Okay, I'm going to put 10% to Apple. All right, Bitcoin, put a little bit there. And it's in those simple things where it's like, I've done my research, I've done my due diligence. Now I'm going to go forth and try and make more money. Whereas I think that's just the issue. No one wants to actually
do the work
and say, all right, we're going to do this. And then the thing is, it's like now he's passed it on to me. I got that knowledge, did it for myself. My sister's got that knowledge. She's 15. And now I'm saying to my sister, all right, what are you going to do in terms of business? And now she can pass it on. And I think that's where it starts off.
So I'm guessing what I'm getting from this is some of the issue is the education in the home. So regardless of family structure, because my grandparents and parents under the bus, but I didn't necessarily get the best education when it came to finance. And I'm only learning some of my financial rules. Literally now. Literally now.
Yeah, but do you think the school curriculum's even put any emphasis on the financial?
No, I've been through. So I'm a good example of someone, obviously, I started school at 4 and I didn't leave school until I was 21, 22 almost. And there wasn't a scrap. There's never been a scrap of really financial literacy.
I think it's also part and parcel of the capitalist world that we live in. Living back in Zimbabwe, right? I started my business before I was 10 years old, my first business. And it was what you guys would call, is it popsicles?
Yeah, ice pops.
Ice pops, right? I was literally going to wholesale. I had a big freezer. And I was literally stocking and restocking and I was making profit before I was 10 years old. And it was very common for your peers to do that. I don't know. How old were you when you left Zim?
2.
So you didn't get that?
Oh,
He's a British you, bro.
My mum did
You're British, bro.
My mum did the same thing because when I was 5, I go to school, printers had just come out. I print posters of John Cena, WWE wrestlers, and I'll go into nursery or whatever it was at that time, and I'll sell them to people. And that's how I started. And then my mum, we first came to Sheffield, we didn't have money. She gets a blanket out, she goes to Norfolk Park, where the car park is, gets furniture, because we don't have money, lays it on there, and just people are coming in the car park. We're Africans in it, and we're just trying to sell as if it's the side of the street, you know, as in Zimbabwe. And it's almost like I took on her business acumen and just doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
It's raw in Africa. It's very raw. It's none of this. You need business plan. It's like, okay,
I'm gonna get to it.
The Caribbean, because I used to sell guineas.
And
popsicle.
It's in us.
But
really
you know what
it is?
It's because people are hungry. Because you know here, if I'm not gonna get, I'm just gonna get money from the government.
I'm blaming welfare. You're shooting out welfare again for the second time.
But for example, yourself, like you said, you've sort of done it because it's sometimes desperate times. You know, when you're under pressure, your mind starts to think, you know what, how can I make this money? Yeah, how can I do this? I can do this. That's how, and I feel too many people are relaxed here.
Yeah.
That's why you see a lot of Africans and a lot of Caribbean people come here and actually do good. They do better than the indigenous people who are from here.
Because they've really got that original mindset of hustling because you've got to hustle to eat. Yeah. They come over here where there's more opportunities and
street vendors. Like, do you know what I mean? When I was young, like agriculture, it was so common. Like, everybody had a little garden in their house. So, you know, your vegetables and that, you grew it yourself. And if you made a little extra, I had a whole field.
Man said England makes
a whole cornfield, right?
Man said England makes it lazy.
It made me lazy. It made me comfortable because I had a whole cornfield, and I mean a big cornfield that you used to go dig up the land, grow it. And obviously, during the rainy season, you didn't have to do no watering or whatever. But it was something that we did. We fed ourselves.
Exactly.
You know, I'm going to touch on that point as well because touching on agriculture, like I said, I'm mingling with these people. And one thing I'm really learning is that a lot of English people, they do trades. So they don't really always go down the university road. They get into construction. They get into being an electrician. And they do these sort of jobs. And then their father will have that business and then he'll pass it on to his son. And then he'll have that business and pass it on to his son. And then it's just like the
small businesses that keep it floating.
Exactly.
In the UK.
Exactly.
Even barbers in the UK are well off.
Yeah. Bro, I know this. I've seen my barber's had about 6 cars in 3 years.
Yeah.
Not saying he's doing the right thing with his money, but I can see that, you know, obviously you got your place and obviously you're self-employed. So you're printing your own money technically.
Yeah.
Providing you got a decent marketing plan and you're actually doing
I mean, Omar Johnson did touch on this. He did say the problem with college courses, some of the college courses, they give you a knowledge base, but they don't necessarily give you any skills that you can use in day to day. So, I mean, I'm doing engineering and, you know, I can see where I can take myself into, you know.
Yeah.
It's practical.
Yeah. It's a practical, vocational kind of subject.
Yeah.
Whereas some subjects that
I'm not going to go down that route, but yes. You know. Man said you're doing David Beckham studies. Right. And all right. So then I came across something else. So a few years ago, a friend was trying to sell me this business idea or whatever. And then off the back of that, we had a conversation and he was like, Anton, I can see you work very hard. Because anyone who knows me knows that I literally, if there's money to be made, I'm there more time. But it's like, you need to stop. Well, he didn't say you need to stop, but you need to realize that the only way that you're actually going to become wealthy is if you make your money work for you. So if you're swapping your hours for finance, you're never going to win this race. It's in the sense where you need to actually use your pounds to kind of work while you're...
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, you need your pounds to kind of work while you're asleep, and then that way you'll actually become wealthy because then you're not swapping your money out for time because it's limited. Like, so I think for me, like, I've then have a conversation with yourself. Obviously, we buck up in the gym and whatever, and then we start talking investments. And I was like, oh, okay, let's bring this man on the podcast to see and spread that knowledge and talk to the people, then make them kind of open up their mind a little bit because people are scared.
So for me, I'll just say, just like you said, that's from Rich Dad Poor Dad. Once again, that's that's from a book. So there's 4 ways in which you can make money in this world. The first way is you just being someone who's employed by a company. You're swapping your time for money. So you work X amount of time, you get paid for those. Now, as someone who's employed, you haven't really got control over, you know, when you have holidays and, you know, things like sick pay and how much, you know, you don't really have control of someone else. And then you've got the self-employed person, which is slightly better. Now, the self-employed person is someone who has a little bit more control, but the business owns them. So a taxi driver, for example, a taxi driver has to be working to make money. If they're not driving that taxi, they're not making money. So it's a little bit of freedom because you can pick and choose when you work, but you're still
swapping your time for money.
Swapping your time for money.
Yeah.
Then you've got the business owners. The business owners are those who essentially have other people working for them. So you can be on holiday, okay, and money. So just like you said, you're still making money because other people working for you. So that's like your Microsoft or, you know, your Amazon. These are your business owners, and you don't even have to be that big. You just set up a small business. You can be on holiday. You can be on a golf course, and your money
and your staff there, and you're making money.
Exactly. The fourth way is investors. This is now where you have money working for you. So for example, could you imagine if you had the opportunity to invest into Apple or Amazon? That would have been like, let's say you know, there's a gentleman who had an opportunity to invest in fact, he was one of the co-founders to Apple. And I think he paid £500.
Oh my Lord.
$500.
And then he did not back out.
And then,
oh my gosh.
I think it was like 10%. And then he came back and said, you know what? Let me have my money back. And so on and so forth. That $500 is now today worth like 1.something billion.
Easily. Yeah.
Billion. That is what you call investing, allowing your money to work for you. Now, some people might say, but what is it that in this day and age that we can invest where? Because for me, employment is an option, but I think employment is the start. So you can use employment, save that money, and use that money to invest into something.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And so for example, I always say to people, and I've done this with like a lot of the church folks, how much do you earn? What do you not need?
Actually,
like I hear people, I can't save. Okay, what? Oh, I'm subscribed to YouTube. I'm subscribed to Netflix. I'm subscribed to. You're giving them money. Don't be giving other people your money if you can't save. Cut everything off.
So it's about making that sacrifice.
Because you have, the problem is people aren't willing to pay the price. You have to save. Listen, people laugh because, you know, I've got one car with my wife and,
we had this conversation the other day.
You know, she drives because she's usually got the kids, but everyone, you know, if I need it, because I used to work in Derby, I can right now go and buy a brand new spanking new car, just a beautiful car. But do you know what? I still take the bus. And sometimes people will look at me and think, oh, you're taking a bus. But they don't know what I'm saving every month. They don't know what I'm investing on. They don't know the investments I've got and things that I've got. But here you are. I'm just there on the bus. I don't mind taking a bus. You're there driving your big car. I'm on the bus, but I probably have a lot more money than you.
So it's about the sacrifice.
It's about the sacrifice.
So you're saying in a lot of cases, and people are able to save. It's just they need to go back.
They need to go to the bare minimum. What do I not need? So if someone can save, like I challenged every one of these guys in church. I said, by the end of the year, I want every single one of you. And I'm talking about, I was challenging like 15-year-olds. I want you to save £1,200 minimum.
Which is easy to do.
Minimum.
Yeah, not if you're 15, it's not. But yeah.
It is. It's what is it? How much is it?
About £100.
Because there's the charts for it.
100%, like that's £100 a month, right?
Okay.
And so with that, so you now, so as an employee, as someone who's employed, an employee, employee, what do? You save that money. And then you invest it. Now, the business owner, hey, you know, it's okay. But where I really want to touch up on, where we can really, as a community and as a people, not just black people, white, anyone who wants to see it, is essentially have the ability to invest. But to invest, you have to save first. So there, like in the 80s, and I've always said this to people, in the 80s, what way could you become very wealthy? Someone told me in the UK.
In the 80s.
In the 80s.
I was a baby in the 80s, huh?
Yeah, you was a baby, so you didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Selling what?
Properties.
Yeah.
Properties. If you bought your house in London you probably would have bought a house in London for like 20, 30 grand.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Today, that house is worth millions.
Yeah,
so that was the first one. Then we move into the 90s. What came into the 90s?
The boom, internet.
The internet boom. A lot of people were buying and selling .coms and so on. People made a ton of, everyone, hey, it's going to be a bubble and it's going to pop. And so no one invested in it. Okay. You were still young. You was in school. That's no problem. You couldn't invest in it. Early 2000, what else was there? The social media movement. MySpace, all of them. That was another. What I'm trying to say to you, in every decade, there's an opportunity for you to make money. Now we are here.
Bitcoin.
Number 4. This is our year.
Cryptocurrency.
Which one is it that where we can make? Is crypto. This, if you want to invest, because trading. So for me, I was someone, I didn't know how to. I remember being young and I remember I heard about people making money, just investing money, the stock market, and I was like, man. But they look like, they just had this image and I have to go to university.
The guy in
Wall Street.
Sell.
All of them. I was like, how do I get into that? I was like, and I even remember, and this is another thing, a lot of people are scared to approach people. Okay. Me, there was a guy, my manager at work at the time, I'm still like 21, 22. And I approached him and I said, because I knew he was trading. So I approached him. And I said, man, I want to know, what you do. And this is an older white gentleman. I just approached. Do you know what? The guy invited me to his house. He sat me down and he started to show me all this stuff. So all of this stuff, no, you just don't ask. A closed mouth doesn't get fed.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I asked, he invited me around and that's where my interest peaked. I started looking at penny stocks and so on and so forth.
Tell me something.
Go on.
Sorry, I don't mean to. Every trend sort of has its time and it sort of passes. So for a guy like me that's never invested in any stocks or anything, is it too late for me to, or has that boat sailed in terms of being able to actually, where do I stand as a new guy into this? If you were to,
me and this gentleman, we were talking,
and if you were to simplify it for a guy like me that doesn't know about trading or whatever, what would you give me as the first 3 or the first 5 steps to becoming
an investor,
and where do I go? Like, where am I?
Okay. The first thing I will say is you have to read. Oh, that R word.
I mean, he loves reading
references.
Is reading. I'm talking about read everything. Get to scratch with like your, there's websites, CoinGecko, and CoinGecko has every single crypto coin that you can probably ever have. Okay. And you can go on a white sheet and you can read about them. You can read and it's not just, everyone's always wrapped up on Bitcoin, but there's thousands of coins.
I actually don't have any Bitcoin.
And you can,
I don't have any.
And you can read up on them. You can pull up the white sheet and say, okay, this is what this coin is doing. That's one way you can do it. There's guys in my church, young guys in our church who they're close to 6 figures from trading. Okay. They've saved, they've invested and they didn't know everything. Right now, if you're talking about crypto, let me tell you something. You are at the very beginning. How much did I told you about XRP or
you told me to put 50, was it around 50 or something like that?
Yeah. And it's gone up.
Yeah. It's
gone up. And so you are still, and I'm talking about something, and obviously I don't want to throw out things out there. We can talk off camera and stuff. But essentially you can throw money on most of these coins and they could potentially make you millions. I'm just saying.
What are the risks?
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
In every investment, if you don't want to risk, get your 9 to 5. You could potentially lose money. This last summer, I lost £13,000 in one day.
I'm glad you're being honest. Yeah.
This is
told me the story. I nearly fell over.
13K in one day. It was like.
Did it come back?
I was like, do you know what? I felt like I was in a dream world for about, for about a month. I was just like, I felt sick to my stomach. I just felt horrible. And I could have said, you know what?
Allow it.
But it was a business. For me, I've always, listen, the amount of business, my first business I started, it was me and another guy who I was working with. We started this business. This guy tried to rip me off. I carried on doing what I'm doing. But today, this business is making a lot of money. Just because you lose money doesn't mean you stop. There's risk to business, right? And there's risk to investment. So I'm not going to lie to you and say, hey, there is a ton of risk when you get into, people are going to rip you off. Sometimes the coin doesn't move like you thought it was going to, and you lose all your money. But the risk to reward is great.
How do you mitigate these risks?
By reading, by doing a little bit of research, and it's not a ton.
What points do you have to say? Because I always see these YouTube adverts.
Do you want to say
right?
Yeah.
Can I trust these guys?
No.
That's always telling me
no.
Trading 2 on 2.
No.
Trading 2 on 2 every time.
Yeah, you can't trust these guys. In terms of the risk aspect, the way I kind of went about it, I only put in money I was willing to lose. Yeah. So let's say you get paid.
Rule number 2. So rule number 1, which is reading. Rule number 2 is only put in money that you're willing to lose.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's say you got £100, and let's say £10.
Down, Angela.
£10 to you is nothing. Let's say £10 is nothing to you. Yeah. Just put that £10. And what I'd always say, because I always give this advice to my friends and my mothers and any mothers of my friends, everybody I can. Open up a Coinbase account. So on Coinbase, you can buy cryptocurrency. And then open up a free trade account. And on free trade, you can buy stocks. Because I think trading 212 aren't exactly letting you at the moment. There's a waiting list.
You want to talk about Binance?
So Binance as well. I haven't got it myself, so I can't recommend it. I don't use it, but there's Coinbase and Binance for your crypto. And then there's free trade for your stocks. Okay. Stocks is the businesses. So if you want to buy a company like Apple, you want to buy Facebook, you can get it all on free trade. And if you want to buy your Bitcoins, your Ethereums, your Chainlinks, Coinbase. And I'd probably say just start. Like, get that £50 in, get that £20 in, that money that you're willing to lose, and start. And then once you get along the journey, you'll start seeing like this guy did. Wait a minute, I'm actually making a bit of money here. I put this money in and it's going up. And then believe me, once that starts happening, your perception and the way you view money is going to change instantly. Because for so long, we're always used to just, okay, I've got money. When's the next payday? When's the next time I'm going to have money? Yeah. But what happens when in one night you put in 1,000 and that turns into 2,000? And then your next payday, that 2,000 is turned to 2,500. You got your payday coming, you put more money in, and it's just happening every single month. And I think once you start getting that feeling, all of this, this risky. Because the thing is, I'll be honest, like the way I was before, I was a typical young black guy. I love, this guy used to tell me off all the time, like, and I had another guy in church, I'd wear like a night tracksuit and be like, okay, this costs 50, and your shoes cost 100. So if you bought that in Apple, this is how much you could have had. And once you start that's how I view things now. Once I start viewing things like that, it's like, okay.
Because now you see stuff.
Okay.
But I'll tell you the benefits of that. I'll tell you how you sort of work it, because it's about it. So what do you want? Do you want freedom? For me, I didn't want to work for the man for the rest of my life. I didn't want someone telling me how much I should be. And so, do you make these sacrifices now? Because you're going to have to make these sacrifices one way or another. So you can make them now, or you can make them later on when your back is hurting, you're trying to get out of bed. Or you can make these sacrifices when you're young. And then when you're young, you make these sacrifices, make your money, and then you reward yourself. The problem is we reward ourselves without having justification for why we are rewarding ourselves. Why are you buying a nice car? What have you achieved?
Success again.
Yeah. Okay. Which is cool. Mm-hmm. There is a counter argument to all of
Go on,
this.
tell me.
And it's kind of one of the conversations we had.
Yeah.
And one of the conversations we had is, where do you draw the line? Because you hear about that lady who saved for 50 years for her retirement, and her retirement, she died and never got to, use her money for her own happiness. Yeah. Like, where do you draw the line of what's gonna make me happy versus sacrifice?
So
in this world, knowing that you don't know when your time is up.
For me, I say work so that you don't have to work anymore. it's better for me. Like right now, I run a church and that's all I do. And I've got my businesses on the side and that's all I do. For me, that's a satisfying life where I'm actually I'm not getting up doing something I don't want to do. And if you feel like every day you're getting up and it's just like, oh man, I don't want to be doing this, then you have to change your life. You know, if you don't change anything, it's just going to be the same. And so if you want to break out of that pattern, seek for financial freedom. Now, your financial freedom can be like, okay, I need £2,000 for all my bills to be paid. And that's financial freedom for you. So you invest and you're bringing in £2,000. Now you can still work. And let's say you're bringing in surplus of £5,000 to £1,000. Now you're bringing in £3,000 per month. Let me tell you, that's freedom. That's fine. So you've covered all your costs. You've got a little bit more to even invest even into more things so that you're really living comfortable. The first thing you have to see, if anyone's listening, is you have to break out the whole employment route. Okay. You have to break out of it. Whatever you do, save. When you've got enough, invest. One of the things I always say to, like, we're talking about black folks is this: I don't think they own enough land. They don't own enough property.
We had this conversation the other day. I believe I raised this point literally last week, but go carry on.
And so, for example, for me, my plan and my plan is that every year I want to be able to buy a house, okay, to put people in. I've said if I can leave this earth by the grace of God, and I can hand over my kids, hey, here's 10 houses.
Oh, they're good, isn't it?
My kids will now take those 10 houses. They're not starting from, oh, I have to buy a house to live in now. No, they're not starting from, and a lot of people, you're giving them a step up. The Asian, we had an Asian brother who come to one of our meetings and he said, this was his very words, it's embarrassing for you not to give your kids at least 2 houses in the Asian community. Embarrassing. That's what he said. Wow. Okay. And so now you give your kids, let's say 2 houses. They're not looking to now having to save to buy a house to live in.
They've got one already.
They've got a house.
They can rent the
next one. And then the next one they're buying. Imagine now they buy another 2 houses.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
Now
it's a wrap.
All of a sudden, that's how but for you to be able to do that, there has to be a generation that takes the hit. I'm willing to be that generation that is riding on buses so that I can save, so that I can buy these houses and run my business and so on. I'm willing to do that for my kids.
When we had that conversation, I was literally saying some of the richest people made sacrifices that we are not willing to make.
We had literally the same time we had this conversation.
We had a podcast called
Even I'm guilty of some of these things.
The hood is not a place, it's a state of mind.
100%.
Yeah.
And I was basically saying, we are where we might not necessarily have equity where access to capital is concerned.
Yeah.
However, we still have got the opportunity of raising our own capital. It's just our spending habits and the willingness to sacrifice. So if you look at the story of a lot of the successful guys out there, they'll tell you, I was sleeping in the car for a year.
Yeah.
In a car.
Yeah. But it's shameful.
I'm too proud to do that.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Get called a scrub.
I think
someone singing TLC to you.
But you have to have a mindset of I don't really care what you think. Too often we care if you're going to succeed in life, that's one thing. If you're going to invest
Rule number 3.
You need to stop caring what people think. When people see me riding on a bus, listen, I wear that. I've had the same clothes for however many years. If it ain't ripped, if it ain't tattered, I'm going to wear it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going out there buying the most. Could I afford it? 100%. 100% I can afford it.
Every pound work for him.
But I'm making my money work for me. I'm happy being able to do what I want. If I want to go on holiday, you can. This is the options you have. Just like I said about money. Your money shouldn't dictate to you where you live or where your kids go to school Or and it does, because if you live in certain areas, it's not in certain catchment areas. And what happens? You can't. You have
to go to certain schools.
You can't go to certain schools.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And so is it not up to us?
Some people move for those catchment areas, and you
right.
Have the capital.
But if you haven't got the capital, how are you gonna move? You know what I'm saying? And so you have to be willing to take the L, to take that sacrifice, and make that sacrifice. For me, it's for my kids. And rule number 3 or whatever is, do you ever write anything down, like your goals, at the beginning of the year? Majority of people never ever. I'm talking about I told these guys, get a diary. Yeah. Buy a diary. Every year they have to buy a diary, and they have to literally organize themselves for the whole year. So we've got church events, we've got other things. So organize yourself that way. Buy a diary. What goals are you looking to achieve this year? Because if you have no goals, then what are you aiming for? You ain't aiming for nothing. You ain't got no goals. So you have to set your goals right. Like 2021, what is your goal? First, I ask you that. Most people don't have one.
Yeah. I want to touch upon something that you said, and you said, you was kind of asking about where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
And what was your last question that you said as well? It was something towards risk management. Anyway, something I'm going to touch upon. Yeah. In terms of risk management, where do you stop and everything else? When it comes to investment, the good thing about it, you can personalize it to yourself. Okay. So I know people where when I started investing in Apple, it's already established, I'm probably going to make around a 10% return each year, maybe 15. And some people was like, AJ, why are you investing? That's so little. Why are you doing that? But I was
it's still money.
With my term of risk, like how I like to take risk, I'm not that guy who wants to put in £1,000 at the casino and put it on blue or whatever the colour is. I'm that guy. I'd rather have consistent gains.
Not being in the casino because it's black or red. But go on.
I'd rather have consistent gains and get that over time. So I think whatever works for you, I remember now. You don't have to be that guy who's sleeping in the car because your risk level may not need to sleep in the car. Yeah, your risk level may be, I'm happy with sacrificing a 1-bedroom flat, or instead of having a MacBook Pro, I'm going to just have a MacBook. Yeah. So you can actually do that for yourself. And then once you can tailor your own risk to yourself, you start becoming your own person within investing. Yeah. Because I can't be like this guy investing. I can't be like this guy. I like Warren Buffett. That's the guy I tend to go to because he's simple and he likes to go off time. So time in the market, we call it. So the longer you spend in the market, the more money you're going to accumulate.
Okay, so here's the thing. One of the reasons why I've not gone into investment yet, and I say yet, because I'm a scholar. Okay. So I'm used to learning something and applying my knowledge to that. Where this whole investment talk, it's the most that I hear is about your habits, your behavior, etc. How do I the method? How do I become a master? How do I become a master?
You know what?
How do I become a master of the method?
I've got, do you know this one? Just for you. This one's just for you, right?
Tailored to Tinashe.
This is one thing. I'm going to hit this.
Triple T.
This is going to be something that I'm going to touch upon beforehand. Yeah. Then I'm just going to go into you. And the first thing is this. A lot of people, when it comes to finances, the easiest way, the quickest way, it's going to be simple. You've heard it 1,000 times, but you need to get around people that are doing well with finances. Yeah. So you need to ideally, I don't want to say it, but you need to get a mentor. So for example, this guy, I don't know if you mind me saying, but he's a homeowner. So, okay, I'm chilling with a person who's a homeowner. Okay, so now my philosophy, just hanging around with him is, okay, I want to get home now. And they say the average of the 5 friends that you hang around. Yeah. And then number 2, I listen to a lot of mentors on YouTube as well. Yeah. And this one's from a guy called Dan Pena. It says specifically for engineers, 40% of the world's billionaires are engineers, right?
Yeah. So you're gonna be rich one day. You owe me some money, bro.
What he does is he's essentially a life coach. He's coached the most billionaires ever. but he's noticed a very specific trend with engineers.
It's because they teach us how to.
Yes, you guys.
We have a module on like business, etc. So they teach us how to, because engineering is pretty much. I don't mean to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because engineering is a lot of everything. When it comes to trading, blah blah blah. A lot of this, engineers are involved because you have to create new products for people to trade them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And this is what I'm saying. With engineers, you guys analyze. I know another engineering friend. The same question he said to me that you said last week. He said, "AJ, I want to become an expert. I'm not used to this whole starting thing." But the thing is, what Daniel Pena said is the great thing with engineers is once you guys get it, you really get it.
This is why I'm. This is why I didn't want to go into it because. All right,
we're having the convo now.
Yeah.
With you guys, the issue is starting. Like you see,
the way that you're dealing with this guy, it's a notch into a T.
The issue is starting. So the thing is, that's why I said to you, get something like £50, get something that you don't mind losing, put it into something, and then once you've started, you can pick up knowledge along the way. Don't always think about the process because that's what engineers, you tend to overanalyze. I know that's what your job wants you to do.
We literally talk
the beauty of it is, I live with 4 engineers. My mum did engineering, my dad did engineering, my brother did engineering, my sister's really good. And I'm like the black sheep because I don't really understand engineering like that. I'm more of a practical guy. I'd rather just go out and do it.
Yeah.
I'm more of the athlete type of guy. And the issue is...
That's what I did. I said, "Yo,
hold this." I don't mean like in that way because I don't really have the brains. I'm open enough to say I'm not the most intelligent guy.
Yeah.
I grinded to get a C, whereas my brother and my parents,
I got A's and B's.
Exactly. That's the difference. But
yeah,
where you fall is that you just don't start. So my advice to you is just begin, set up that account, start, and the over-analyzing things, you need to get over it. I don't mean that in a patronizing way.
No, I totally get you. No, do not pull it off. No, because it's the same in engineering, right? Sometimes I won't do something if I can't do it right. Because with engineering, it's about precision. Yeah. We taught to be precise because you know if you're building a bridge, you've got to be precise down to the very T.
I think what you're talking about is if you're looking to invest in is more, you're looking at actually you're more of a technical analysis. So for example, I was like you where I didn't want to just get signals and just read this and just go. I actually wanted to be that person who can analyze the market. So I learned how to read the charts and so on and so forth, and I can make my decision. And so if you're an engineer, that will probably be more suited to you where, and that's actually a better way. So now you can, you essentially in front, you've seen them people sitting in front and looking at the charts and so on. Yeah. So I learned how to do that. Now, for me, it took me for you, it might take you a year but for me, it took me a good 3 years. Mm-hmm. And this is a sacrifice I'm telling people. I would come back from work.
It's long, isn't it?
And I would spend an extra 3 to 4 hours, sometimes 6 hours sitting in front of the charts. But guess what? It was all worth it because now I can make money on that screen because now I've got a business where I can teach others how to do that. I can teach friends, you know, because for me, people, but if you're a friend, I'm going to show you, hey, this is how. I'm not one of them guys. This is how you're going to do this, but you have to be willing to make that sacrifice.
So where's that knowledge base?
And so it's out there. Like I've got if it's something that you wanted, I can show. And this is what this guy was saying. It's mentoring. So if you wanted to know, okay, how do I get that? I've got all of that stuff.
Okay.
So I can give you access to that. And this is where having a mentor comes in. But the great thing is if you can't even find a mentor, guess what I'm going to go back to? Read a book. Because the book becomes your mentor because that guy's telling you what he did. Yeah.
He's already done it and gone through.
Recommend a Investing for Dummies type of book.
Sure, there's a book called that.
No, I would actually give you the stuff because when I was learning how to trade, that was like 5 years ago. There wasn't a lot of access like it is now where trading 212 and all. It wasn't like that. I had to literally start from the beginning. There were certain things that I was learning that I didn't really need to learn. There were certain things that and so there was a lot of junk that I didn't really have to go through. So I had to filter a lot of the stuff. So now someone like you comes along, I can just say, okay, let's start with it. Do this. And I think if you're someone who's technical like that, with technical analysis, that it's going to be right down your street, because you mark up your charts. You say, okay, the market's going to move here. When it moves to this point, then I'll buy. Or the market moves here. When it moves to this point, then I'll sell. That's literally you. And if you want to do that, there's a ton of stuff and a lot of in fact, I just finished it with a guy a couple of weeks ago who's an engineer. So we done I do a 2-week course just teaching folks how to trade and so on. But we went through that and he got it like that. I don't know. I think it might be that whole mind thing you guys have, but he sort of he sort of got it really quick.
Once they get it,
they just got it. He understood it. Yeah. He was able to, and the power. Let me tell you something. There's something about being able to lie in your bed, take your laptop, execute a trade. You wake up I'm in profits. There's nothing like it. Yeah. Where else can you make money in your bed? Where else could you get up and...
So what would you say to the people that said it's glorified gambling?
Try and gamble like that. Just try. It took me 5 years learning, reading, testing, back testing. It's, to become a proper trade, that's why you have to go. But I had to learn. It's not guesswork here. That's why there's a whole field in it.
Scared about it. Not even scared, but that's why I'm so cautious.
No, you don't. And as I said,
because I'm a 1 + 1 = 2 kind of guy. Yeah. So I think the blurred lines kind of just.
Let me tell you something. I bought some cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Yeah, these guys didn't tell me this part. So I bought some cryptocurrency, and literally the day I bought it went up. The weekend came, it went down, like down, and I'm like. Yeah. Nah, these guys are giving me some bad advice. No, hold on. This is about the knowledge. Hold on.
Where do you just sit back and say, no?
I'm about to tell you now.
Listen to what I said.
Obviously, I've seen these man at the gym now, and like a couple of days later, and I'm saying, yo, brother, and they're like, oh, did it happen over the weekend? I'm like, yeah. It's like, oh yeah, it always goes down to the weekend. It's just things like that. Man, them take that.
That would make me panic.
No, but it's like this when you begin to know. It's education once again. The Bible says that my people die through lack of knowledge. Yeah. If you lack the knowledge, then you're going to be frightened to do certain things. Yeah. And so it's just about gaining that knowledge. And I feel within our community, as you guys like to mention, we do need to start sharing. And that's why for me, like as a pastor, a lot of people, all that church wants is your money, blah, blah, blah. No, for me, I teach these guys. This is how, because money will help you in the long run, but you have to be able to make it. And so don't think, is it done?
It's got 10%. We're gonna wrap up.
Yeah, don't think. For me, my advice is just like AJ said, just get started. If you don't know, there's a lot of
with
books
a small
out
amount.
there. Yeah, with a small amount.
And just watch how the team goes.
Do you know a good book to read? I recommend this. Just start off with this book. I could recommend many books. In fact, I'll give you 2 books to read. Okay. Compound Effect. Okay. Powerful book. That book will change the way you, and Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
He teaches you the basics of financial education.
Slaps a lot of people in the face with that book.
It really does. And so if you just pick up those 2 books, read them, you have to learn, you have to force yourself to begin to read. Sacrifices, meaning things like, hey, instead of you come home, people say, I haven't got time to do an extra thing when I get home.
You have.
That's just not
You're
true.
tired and
You come home, what do most people do? They watch
TV,
television.
yeah.
Instead of watching television,
Read for an hour.
why don't you read for an hour and then spend an extra hour just reading, just learning something
It's
new?
just your routine, isn't it?
100%.
Also, don't buy Heinz tomato ketchup by Lidl.
No, I'm not doing that. That's a sacrifice I'm not willing to make.
He says that. If you don't need to get the
brand.
Yeah, the Mint brand. And I actually heard something that with black people,
we're bad for it.
we're the worst
Yeah, we're the
in terms of buying. Let's say you've got Febreze, and then let's say you've got just a regular
we are
air freshener.
brands.
Bro, I've literally got that, fabric freshener.
Yeah.
And I usually buy Febreze.
Yeah.
I had to buy some next brand.
Yeah.
I feel some type of way.
We're the most likely to do that, but for me, I don't necessarily go to that extent. But for me, it's more so, okay, the way I actually started investing is there was a time I was going to buy a new phone. Something happened to my phone. I said to myself, you know what? I can either buy Apple shares or I can buy a new Apple phone.
Jeez. Yeah. Listen, 99% of people.
Anton, did you hear that?
I heard him.
I can either buy Apple shares.
It shakes my whole chest, man. Yeah.
I can buy a new. Oh my.
It shook my whole chest.
At the time, every day I'd go home, AJ, like, new phone be good, because my phone's kind of, when people start talking about your phone, you kind of know you need a new one. I was like, it's getting on a bit.
Styling
then,
about your phone as well.
I said, you know what? I don't know anything about this investing thing. I'm not too sure, but the guys I'm chilling around just keep telling me I need to do this.
Yeah.
So I put the money into Apple, and from there, once, like I say, it's the feeling that money gives you once you start seeing it grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
I said, I'm never looking back. And now, for me, I've still got the same phone. I've increased my holdings in Apple, and I'll continue to increase my holdings in Apple.
At what point do you withdraw?
This is what I was saying.
I was about to lie. That literally wasn't
Invested.
At what point do you realise?
This is my point.
Yeah.
Okay, there's two things with that. So it's research. So if you know that almost it's like you ran your luck and it's almost too much now, take it out. And number two, depending on the type of person you are. Because for me, I'm going to keep in Apple for maybe another 2 years, then I'll probably review it. But I know people that would have cashed out.
Or do you take some out?
I'll take some out. Sometimes if I see a better investment over there, and I'm like, okay, it's window shopping. When I get paid, it's like, literally, it's like I'm going shopping to Meadow Hall. Because I'm like, okay, I've seen this investment I've been researching on. Let me put money into that. And now, okay, this investment's not really doing what it used to. There's the new investment over there. So I'll go and buy that. And that's why you always top yourself up with knowledge. And then you always just feeding yourself, staying with these people, and you'll find things. The person who got me to invest was this people in church, a pastor, this other guy called Josh, and he got it from his dad. And then just mingling with these people, I'm telling you, it will make a difference. Mm-hmm. Because these people, they sometimes they do the knowledge for me. I wasn't interested in buying a house. This year I want to buy a house. And that's because it's the people that I'm hanging around.
The man's 23.
Yeah, but I said to these guys, listen, our aim is for every young person in church to own a house within the next 3 to 4 years. Every one of them. I'm talking about you. And so they be saving. We've spoken to, and I said, listen, just save the money. And I can almost guarantee you by next year, there's a whole bunch of, and I'm talking about 20-year-olds who are now, okay, I've got the money. What am I going to do now? And so there's a whole bunch of them now who are already ready to buy their first house.
You change the mindset by telling them.
You change the mindset, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, as a man thinks, that's what he is. So as you think, that's what you become. Mm-hmm. And so you have to change your thinking. Stop flossing. You don't have to floss.
Anton, you don't need Nike, all right?
Really? Look at the sandals, brother. What do you mean?
Just do it.
Modest Reebok.
Yeah, modest.
They look fresh, bro.
Stop. Right, we'll lock it off, innit?
Yeah.
Thank you for today. Yeah.